We're here.
Here we are. Good morning.
Good afternoon, as it were.
Time zones.
They're a thing.
They are. They really are. Welcome, welcome. Me, Jen, you, Laura. We are discussing what it's like to learn some shit, you know?
Okay, let's try again. We're here to talk about mentorship, which I will say, I think part of the reason why I'm part of this conversation is because I just don't know if you know this, but you're not that great about selling how good you are at things.
No, I'm not. Uh-uh. See, now I got dogs barking and I'm acting like we're just on a live instead of recording. We're fine.
We are
Anyway,
basically on a live.
we
The
are.
same thing.
If he gets frisky, we might have a malfunction. Oh,
Yeah, that's
shit.
okay.
Hold
Well,
on. Pause.
yep. Okay, no dogs were harmed or ran away in the last few seconds while we left you.
We're fine.
Everything's fine. Okay,
Just,
so mentorship is our
yes.
topic for today, which is something that you've offered for a while, and I've had the great pleasure of being one of your mentees, as it were. How long ago did you start mentoring?
6 years.
No big deal.
No, yeah, it's fine. And in fact, one of my very first mentees, actually, I had two mentees start at the exact same time, a male and a female, and they're both still in the mix, and they both still get services, as it were, actually. But yeah, no, I have been teaching for the last, well, teaching this for the last 6 years. It's one of those things that I love to do because I like to watch people understand their gifts. Because it's not just like, oh, I figured out that I'm a psychic. It's like, oh no shit, I got some really cool stuff. I feel like everyone's turns out so different. And that's part of the reason why I like it. Because while I love like doing readings and doing the classes, that individual work for that stuff lights me up because everyone's is so unique.
I think that's something that the psychic community doesn't talk about or doesn't differentiate in a very great way is that people just sort of assume that if you say intuitive or tarot, that you're also a medium, you're also an energy worker, where in actuality, each of us, our gifts are, while there is some overlap and some of us can do some of the same things, that how they work and how they feel are incredibly different.
Widely different. And even so, you can label yourself as all of those things, but yours will not necessarily show up the same way mine do,
Yeah.
or the same way Colette's does. I don't fucking know. Everybody definitely number one works with their gifts in their own way, right? So like you're gonna do what feels comfortable to you. You're gonna do what you were doing when you were like 3,
Yeah.
and then you're gonna recognize like, oh hey, it can be more. And so I get a lot of people from just various modalities. I would say the most common one is people start working with me, and then within like 6 weeks, there's been about 12 of you in total. Automatically, you guys are jumping into like Reiki training. I've had the 12 of you join Reiki training. I had 2 people join an angelic blah, blah, blah. What was the exact term? It doesn't matter. Like an angelic energy healing tribe, I think is what it was. Um, but the majority I've noticed really find a healing modality, whatever that is.
Reiki feels like that access of like just a beginning of, well, right now, I mean, I did it because I kind of wanted to have the name attached to my abilities, but
Yep,
that it sort of is a gateway. Just kind of like working with you is another kind of gateway. Okay, so mentorship is for those people that already know you have some gifts, right? Like
absolutely.
they've already
Uh,
started.
they already started. I don't. So let's back this up a notch. So, if you guys do or do not know, I have a foundations course, self paced, videos in there, information, PDFs, yada, yada. That is for folks who are just starting to dibble dabble. just starting to play around. They're feeling a little some type of way. Do I have this? Do I not? How do I do these things? And it's like this foundational content, right? So if you already know you got something, you already know it's working because, you know, maybe you're seeing spirit or you're hearing things or you're feeling the Kundalini awakening, whatever that is. The mentorship is where you're going to head. This is not because it's so tailored to you and what it is you desire to do, as well as what your human design says and what your birth chart says based on for your own path. Okay. So we put that all together. So this is definitely not a beginner course. This is for people who really want to get in there and play, get your hands dirty. And let's see what we can do, because it feels like almost a safety net, because ain't a fucking thing you can do that I can't undo.
Yeah.
So if you got an issue, like we can unravel that, you'll be fine. And so it's like getting in there with that safety of knowing like you can't really fuck this up, and then playing.
The playing, and it also feels like you don't have to know where you're going, you just know you want to play. And it doesn't have to be for, becoming a medium on TikTok or creating a business. It is just like you have some things, you have some questions. It feels like it would be fun to play around with them. Jenn's gonna start you off in a powerful way so that you can make a plan.
Yeah. I mean, I will say probably it's a 50-50 split. Some of my mentees have no desire of ever owning a business.
Mm.
None. They just want to get good at what they're good at. They want to know what they're good at. They want to find that, right? Because it's usually a piece of your soul. Like there's a reason why we have it. So they find themselves wanting to do that. And then I have other people who are, they know they have a calling to be a business owner in the spiritual realm. But either way, that doesn't necessarily matter. You know what I'm saying? Because like what you're going to get from me in this is going to be the same. Me telling you what the plan is. Well, actually, that's a group effort, because like there's going to be things that you're going to want to learn that maybe I'm not seeing that you would need to. Okay, who cares? You have a desire. Let's add that in the mix, right? And then it's moving from there into practical application, learning how to do these things. So you're not going to be reading out of a book.
Mhm.
You're going to be let's fucking play. You want to work with the elements? All right, let's work. Can you turn a candle off with your mind? Can you turn a candle on with, and make that flame grow? You want to do that? I have one who loves to do that stuff. And I'm like, first of all, your shit's fucking cool. Second of all, I mean, I can do some of that, but like you're excelling, bro. Keep going. um, the beauty of that is even if it's something that I wouldn't consider myself a master of, they still give me all the information you guys need. So it's just like, cool, here we go. And now go fucking do it and have fun.
Yeah. So the wanting to have fun and get consistent, and I think what's so cool about the working relationship with you is you don't know where you're gonna end, but we're just like, here's the road we're going down, and you're like, let's go, ask your questions. I don't know, what does
Yeah.
it feel like, right? So for me, that once a month check-in where I could be like, hey, I did go to the Akashic record and I could put my arm through the book, and you were like, okay, let's stop there for a second.
You could do what?
Right.
Let's not. Yeah.
So that sort of like conversation, you can't just sit down in Starbucks and talk to your best friend about your Akashic record and your books, right? Or wanting, having finally been able to like look at a candle from across the room and smudged it up. So that opportunity to have someone that has direct access to getting all the answers if they don't already exist, but also just the confirmation of like, hi, this just did this cool thing.
Yeah. And I think some of that too, it's like this one-on-one session a month. Fantastic. But if you're just randomly on a Tuesday night having some weird shit pop off as you're playing, you have access to me via text.
Yeah.
And people do these things. They're like, so here's a video of what I did. And yeah. And how do we feel about that? I'm like, well, let's unpack that. Um, so it's fun to watch the expansion.
Mhm.
because it's meant to be fun. And when you're doing something like this, where it is truly playing to your natural strengths and your natural abilities, and then allowing that expansion to happen, it's fun. And that's what it's supposed to be. Because if it's not lighthearted and fun, or at least your practice doesn't feel that way certain times, no thanks.
Check, please.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a real big no thanks. I mean, there are some of it that's going to be a little, not for nothing. There is the shadow work that tends to come up because then people, I don't want to do, oh, what does this mean? Especially for my witchy gals. Because not only do I mentor in the psychic realm, but I also mentor in the witch realm. Okay. And if you want to be both, have a good time. Clearly. But those gals sometimes, my spell work gals, I've got two. One just finished, so I have one. My spell work gals, sometimes their stuff gets pretty heavy. And that makes them feel heavy. And it's like it, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. Let's cleanse that. Let's go take a bath, whatever that is. And we always bounce back. So, not for nothing. Is it going to be lighthearted and fantastic every moment? No. But you should feel comfortable, almost like you're playing in a sandbox as a kid. Like you just want to create.
Even with the witchy friends, though, I mean, you have said before on live and in here as well, the protection and cleansing is like first step, but also you're contributing with monthly energy work. So that's like duo.
Because here's the thing, when you're first starting to play with that stuff, do you remember all the steps? No. No. I mean, honestly, I've been doing this stuff full time for 7 years now. And there are times that I still forget to throw down protections. I'll be halfway through, so I'll be like, well, let's do that. I try to keep a white protection candle going, but here we are. But anyway, so whether you forget or not, I'm coming through once a month to clean your shit. So we go in there, we clean the auric field, we go in there, we clean the chakras, but really we're just dumping all the stuff you've collected on your spiritual body straight out. Like it doesn't matter what modality we're gonna do, it's out of there. In your own body by yourself. Because as you're playing, weird things happen sometimes.
Mhm.
One of my old mentees was highly connected to like the ET side of things. It was cool. It was so cool. They have a ton of cool healing gadgets. But it was like you don't have to take them with you when you're done working with them.
Yeah,
She's like, I don't know, I feel really weird, like my sleep's really weird, I can't really eat. And I'm like, yeah,
turns out.
you've opened a portal. We
That's
can ask them to go back. And we should. And she just forgot because it felt normal.
oh
And I was
yeah,
like,
because you're in that energy so long that it feels normal.
yeah. And I'm like, that's not normal. Let's figure that out. So
That's
just closing
awesome.
up, cleaning that energy out, carrying on.
Okay. So someone wants to start playing with their gifts. They sign up and your first session is the plan part, but you use some tools for that plan, which I'm a fan of those tools.
Yes, yes. So you got to send me your info, your birth info, all the good things. If you don't know it, well, it gets a little tricky, huh? But what I do is I use your birth chart and your human design chart. And from there, because it gives us a lot of things, there's a lot of different spots you can look at on both that would be indicative of what you should be focusing on spiritually in this lifetime, what gifts you have, and what you should be expanding on to be on the path, right? And so I do both of those. So you got to send me your birth information so I can briefly look it over before we have our session. Why? So I'm not spending the time going like this while we listen. So I hop in there, I look at that stuff, and then we have our first session. Our first session is a planning session. We're gonna have a 6-month roadmap by the time we're done. You're gonna know what it is. And always but don't think I'm cementing you into that because as we get in, if we're like, oh man, you just fucking light up on this path, let's give ourselves a win. Let's go down this path, right? So it's not that there is no room for adjustment, but we have a path, we have a plan, we know what it is, and then you leave with homework. There are things it's practical application. Again, as I said earlier, this is not reading a fucking book. If you want to read them, go ahead. I'm a reader. But this is really like dive in. Do you have to do it every day? No. I mean, if you're going to do cleansing and protection, maybe we can talk about that. But really, this is just getting your hands in it.
Do you think playing in your psychic gifts is similar to playing in your intuition? Is that it just keeps getting stronger, for lack of a better word?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how much you play is really decided on what you want to be doing.
100%. Not everybody needs to be, not everybody gets to the spot where they're always on.
Yeah.
I talk about how mine just doesn't shut off. We could be BFFs and I don't shut this off. So half the stuff I say is going to be channeled, right? And it's but it's so fluid that we just don't even know.
Mhm.
Not everybody has to do that.
Mhm.
Not everybody wants to do that. I have a girlfriend who's like, I gotta sit down, I gotta tap in. And every time she says it, we've been friends for a decade. Every time she says it, I'm like, the fuck you talking about? You don't just hear it? She's like, no. But she doesn't want to. And
Mhm.
it's not because she's ignoring it, because she uses her gifts. She has some DBs that she works with, but she chooses and enjoys the fact that hers are not on. She flips the switch. So, it's truly a muscle that you have to exercise. And as she has discovered, the less you flip that switch,
Mhm.
the more it takes to power it on.
Yeah. So the homework is based off of what you want to expand, what you're interested in, what your natural strengths already are, like where you want to play in the world, do you think people come in knowing, I don't know that I knew, which is why I'm asking this question. Do you think people come in knowing what they want to learn?
Not at all.
Yeah. So
No.
how would you say if someone was like, well, this sounds kind of good, what would you say to them of like, yeah, obviously this is why you should?
Yeah. So if someone's like, I mean, yeah, okay. Number one, what brought you here?
Hmm.
I always want to know that, right? Like what brought you here? What made you decide you want to learn these things, learn how to get in here and figure out what you're good at, what you're not good at. Number two, what makes you not feel all in about what we've already discussed? Is there something I'm missing that you like? Okay, we'll add that in. Oftentimes I feel like, and even so, even if you don't know exactly what your path is, and again, no one really does, including myself when I started, there's usually something that you find fun.
Mhm.
There's usually stuff in your feeds of any social media that you're always going to stop and watch. So what is that?
Yeah.
I got one gal, it's candle magic. Okay, let's fucking go. Let's go. She's like, I don't really care if I'm like psychic and shit. Like, I want to play with this. Okay, okay. But
Perfect.
you're fucking wildly psychic. Are you sure you don't want to play with it? Yes. Okay.
Teach their own. Yeah.
Literally. She just doesn't feel as connected there. But what I feel like is going to happen, and what I always leave the door open to, is after you play and what you like, sometimes things evolve. And then there's almost, in certain aspects, especially if it's supposed to be quote unquote on your path, Spirit's just going to be like, yeah,
Keep
here
that
you go.
safe.
Yeah. Don't forget about this part.
Yeah.
So, and even if it doesn't happen, oh well, don't matter. If you don't like what you're doing, why the fuck are you doing it?
Well, and that's, I mean, honestly, it goes back to sort of the core of all of the work that we are doing in the world is to get people to see what is their path and what isn't, what lights them up, what doesn't, where they want to spend more time and energy, where they don't. Right? So all of this continues to go back into what's your vibe, what's your high vibe, what's your higher self say about all of this. Um, Because chances are, if you hang out in Jen's TikTok live room, you may want to play with your psychic gifts.
Typically,
Yeah.
typically, I mean, if the people that really hang out the most are the ones who know they have them and they just don't know what the hell they're gonna do with them.
And I think we're also at a point in time where most people now know they all do have them.
We still got some
Regard,
hanger honors for the
sure.
now I know.
Okay, that's
It's gonna
fine.
be yeah, it's gonna be like that no matter what, right? But I feel like at the very least, everyone knows they have a gut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Choose your intuition. But there's a gut feeling going on, right? And so if we can just grow on that and expand that, you'll start realizing in all the places and spaces that that gut feeling's really right. But it is all about aligning to your higher self and being on that path, which pro tip is a lot of the stuff I teach.
Continuously in a loop. Um, I think too, you can't really put a value on someone supporting your growth, someone giving you confirmations when you're doubting yourself, someone being in communication with you about what it is. Because generally, most of us, and I think this is true still of you, even at 7 years in, we don't have a tight knit group of 7 people where we can be like, let me tell you about this guy that I talked to when I was channeling yesterday, right?
100%.
So a safe space to be open and playing with your gifts. I mean, is really I don't think I could put a value on it.
Thank
You're welcome. No, thank you
you. You're welcome.
for taking
I,
me as a mentee.
of course. Um, I think, especially when it comes to seeing how different life is as you play in that and you get stronger in your intuitiveness, you start to realize how invaluable it is. Now, not for nothing, not to say that I don't pop in Laura's inbox and I'm like, oh my God. We still have moments. We still, me, whoever the fuck, we get off, right? But having someone who can be like, really? Or my favorite, interesting.
Never good. It's never
If
except for
you tell me you
yesterday.
have done something, and my answer is one word, interesting. We have other things to discuss.
Yes, now you and I have had enough conversations that I immediately know when you disagree with something that I said. You're like, is that okay? But also you're like, you give the space to complete and then you like put a pin in it.
Yes.
We'll come back to that.
We will absolutely be circling the block here, but we can finish this. I think, honestly, what people miss out on in coaching situations, that's what I do. I coach, I guess, whatever, is oftentimes the coach doesn't just tell people, that ain't right. I do. Um, I do always try to make sure I am right first. But it's like, I think we're missing some of that because when it comes to using your gifts, is there truly a right or wrong way? No. But is what you're getting the right thing or the wrong thing? That's what we have to tap into, right? And so, like with the witchy side, there is a right or wrong way to do a spell. You got to be careful. You think you're cord cutting, you're binding something. That's a problem. Now I got to undo the binding and I got to show you how to do that. Now we got to clean that shit up. You know what I'm saying? Like
There's some steps, some order of operations.
there is.
Mhm.
But also not for nothing. And again, this is something that I still deal with using my own intuition is there are some things that we are so close to that it's very hard to discern.
Mm.
And that's typically the stuff that I say, oh, okay. Well, let's talk about that. Because it's what can be clear to me for you can feel like mud to you. And that's just because your heart's involved. Whatever we're even talking about, don't matter. Some for your own self, some regards your family, love. I it's different because I'm not like I can feel your energy and I know what you desire, but what the path truly is for that, different. So I think oftentimes people just don't get told Does that feel true to you?
Side note, that means that it is inaccurate if she asks that question.
There's never been a time where I've asked that and been like, it doesn't feel true for me either. But it's the point of I want you to see how it sits in your body.
Yeah. And that's a good, I mean, no matter sort of what the clairs, what your gifts are, what your clairs are, that's where we're moving towards, right?
Yeah.
Is that you can feel in whatever your strategy is in your human design, what that response is.
Yes. And most likely you blew through that to say whatever you were going to say.
Yeah, because you're deprogramming what your thinking mind and your thinking heart
Exactly.
feel, but the feeling is rooted in reality and condition, whatever. Anyway,
It is. Yes.
it is all of those things together. Um, okay, you have offered all of these things. So access to you, a once a month check-in, energy once a month, a start off to make a plan. It's in a little package for 6 months
Yeah.
for a
It's a grand
monthly
old time.
payment of,
212
which is just about the same as one, what
reading.
is it? One reading, 1 hour long reading, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't see a land in the world where this isn't, I mean, worth $1,000 a month, if I'm honest.
Turns out, actually, you can work with me for $1,000 a month if you would like to have the quantum transformation. A
Also
little more
that.
in depth there. However,
Yes,
and that's typically what my time's worth.
that's like boot
But
camp, and this is like sandbox.
yes, factual. Oftentimes, I will say this: I only have oh, in my lifetime of being a mentor, I only have two people who are not quantum activated or transformed, whatever you want to call it. I call it quantum transformation if you're paying for it. But people typically do start with the mentorship, and then they're like, "I see where this is headed. Let's do this," which is fine. I love a little chain of things, and you guys can hang out with me longer. But yes, it is 212 a month. Number one, I don't feel like that is too far out of the realm of what people can afford these days.
Yeah, that's legit.
Number two, I feel like it's affordable enough that you aren't stressed about the dollar and you can learn and play.
Mm-hmm.
And then number three, what I already know about myself is I'm gonna give you all that you need and you'll have a grand old time. Once you've graduated out of there, you'll be just doing your thing, allowing the gifts to grow and keep expanding. So yeah, 6 month commitment. Sometimes I feel like I almost want it to be 8 because I feel like there's a couple that just need a little extra time. Um, I'm still keeping it at 6 if we need a little extra, depending on what you're doing. You know, I've got one gal who's like activating everything. All of a sudden, she's got all the things are popping in there online. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's going to need a little more time. So that's fine. But I do feel like currently still the 6 month is good average, and people can really get a good grip on where they're at, what they're doing, where it's going.
May never have a good grip on where I'm going, but thanks for coming along for the ride.
You know, but not for nothing. That's your energy. And there are plenty of people who are in a similar spot. I mean, there is just growth and evolution written all over your path. And it's always going to be, we did this, got that mastered. Here we go next. Got that mastered. Here we go next. I didn't want to master that one. Let's go to this one. You know, that's how you flow. And there are plenty of folks who flow the same way. So not a bad point to touch on. If what you start your mentorship with, you're like, turns out okay, turns out, flip it up. Let's switch it around. Or, keep expanding on this because you do have that natural calling for it. But if what you really like is over here, we'll fucking do both.
Yeah, yeah. You can right turn at any time.
2000%. I don't
Yeah.
care. All it takes is a text. Okay. Here's your new plan. Even if it's just for this month. Who cares?
Right? Oh yeah, there's no reason why you can't sort of have a month. Here's what we're doing this month, here's what we're doing next month. You can have any kind
Absolutely.
of plan.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel the need to cage this in because I think we've done a good job at this point of conveying like it's meant to be expansive. It's meant to be fun. If you feel like you're in a cage, this ain't it. Let my ass know.
Abort.
Yeah, let my ass know now because this is not how it should feel. You should not feel boxed in. If anything, as you dive into your intuition, it should feel very expansive, like
Yeah.
very much. I want to say heart opening, but what it really feels like is like heart, sacral, solar, just like open. It should be free flowing. So if you definitely feel no, that ain't it.
Yeah. I have, you also said, I think in one of the first meetings as well, like life is going to be lifing. So if you, if you're in some sort of a way and we need to get some stuff out of the way before we can get back to playing, that is also like ask a couple questions, get some confirmations that you need. Yeah, I mean, you're very generous with being like, if things are in the way, they're like the world doesn't stop spinning just because we're trying to play with our psychic senses.
Not at all. And what typically happens is the world spins faster because you're just diving in, right? It almost feels like a little bit of an unknown, and then shit pops up. I like it's just not a problem. There's some of you that literally use your check-ins as a reading because you just need it. Life is hitting. Okay. Okay. You know what the plan is still. You know what we're doing. And if you can't commit to it, and that's another thing, this isn't something that you should have to work on every day. This is not a daily commitment. It should be a commitment of some kind, or else what are we doing?
Yeah.
But you shouldn't feel drowning and overwhelmed doing it.
Yeah.
Which is why I keep it to the one check-in and then the one energy work. You're dibble dabbling, I'll clear you out. You keep going, right? And then like we'll check in about that, and yeah, you should be careful over there because we did a little much, or whatever. Go expand on that. But yeah, if life is lifing, there's always a pause button.
Yeah. But you can also have some add-ons, right? Like if we need to shadow work for a hot second here because we just found some stuff, that's also acceptable.
There's not really much that isn't. And frankly, if you're on this path, the chances of you just being a mentee and only having that as a service is very slim. And in fact, none of you do.
Yeah, it seems unlikely at this point.
It's when you dive, listen, when you dive in, not for nothing, I think we've talked about the dark night of the soul before, but have we? Don't matter. But as you dive into some of this stuff, shit can trip your trigger.
Mhm.
And if we need some shadow work to untrip that trigger so you can live authentically, then that's what we're going to do. We'll just add that on. Okay. Yeah. No harm, no foul. Yeah.
If you have any questions about mentorship, you can obviously ask either of us.
Absolutely.
What else do you want to say about it?
I feel like we've really covered it.
I think so too.
I keep wanting to go back to the fact like it should feel fun, it should feel expansive.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, revisit, revise, because this isn't meant to be like a Debbie Downer situation, or like it's really heavy. Oh, I got to see the dead people. You don't have to.
Tell them to go
Move
home.
on. Yeah, move on. Close the
My
door.
my waiting room is closed.
But really, who
Yeah.
cares?
It
I
is
mean,
nice to be able to be like, I get you, this specifically happened where I was like, I was doing TikTok live and channeling and I got so warm and you were like, turn the furnace down. Just literally, you can tell them to turn it down. I was like, oh gosh, I forgot that that's an option.
when people's clear audience comes in, that's usually a big one. It's so loud. Turn the radio dial down.
Yeah, but all of those conversations, like, you just don't know. You can
Yep.
tell the dead people to not wake you up at 2 in the morning.
Facts. Or you can even tell them, as I do, my bedroom's a no-fly zone.
Perfect.
You got all these other rooms. Not there.
Yeah.
No.
Oh my
I'm
God,
not
I
doing
love
it.
it.
Well, that's what we got.
Seems good.
I think so. I only had to chew one Tums this whole time. We're doing
Amazing.
good.
Thanks
We're
for
doing
tuning in. Who knows what we'll talk about next time, but it's a pleasure as always.
good. As always.
We'll see you around the internet.
Okay, love you, bye.
Bye bye.